If you're someone that no longer wish to simply see meditation as this momentary thing that you do or undertake, some action, some discipline that you have to adhere to for a momentary period of time, but you want meditation to be your everyday default lived experience, this video is for you. And I will do my very best to make this simple, clear, and honest, direct for you, because in fact it is very simple. The reason we have so much difficulty with this is because we approach the subject of meditation as we do any other skill that we're trying to learn. Because with everything else in life, it's simple at first. Like the first step is simple, and then it gains in complexity the further you go along this learning curve, right? And meditation is quite the opposite, because the more you learn about it, the less you're actually in tune with the core principle of meditation. Because meditation is not an action. It is not something you do. And you cannot meditate, in fact, in the way that I'm speaking. Meditation, traditionally, classically taught, is something wherein you narrow down your attention on a particular object of perception. You're told to scan the sensations of the body, to focus on the arising and pacing out of the breath, to focus on the thoughts that arise, the feelings that arise, whatever comes and goes in your mind, or even the spaces between these, right? You're told to focus on a flame, to focus on a mantra. And these preliminary practices do work. They do work, but they are not meditation. They're concentration. And I've told this in so many videos, and I'll continue to do so, because the reason I'm sharing this is because I spent well over a decade thinking I was on a direct path of meditation, and in a way I was, but at the same time I had this idea that meditation was about some realization that I had to come to, that I was here at point A and I had to get to point B realization, or in order to be content, fulfilled, complete, and happy, joyful in myself. Obviously, this is all backwards. Because once you create this gap between where you are and where you want to be, there's a gap there. And the whole point is to realize that there is no distance between the seeker and the sought. That which you are looking for is you. It's what you are already. And I hope there is no one who's up for debate about whether or not you are, whether or not you're aware. Because right now, just in your simple experience, you may ask yourself, I can ask you, if you're aware. Are you? Are you present? Are you aware? Obviously, the answer, undoubtedly, unquestionably, is yes. But it's not even that you have to refer to the mind to give you that yes. Because in the contemplation, in the question itself, are you aware? The awareness which sees the answer yes, or even the answer no, or I don't know, is present. It's aware. It's here, right? Awareness is the one thing which we can all hopefully agree upon. And truth, the definition of truth in my view, is that which is unquestionable, which is true always, under all circumstances, for every single being out there. If truth is partially true, sometimes, not sometimes, right? It's not true. It's not true. And why would you why would you invest yourself in something that is partial, which is sometimes true, momentarily true? Makes no sense, does it? I mean, maybe someone out there is interested in knowing falsehood, entertaining falsehood. I see many people doing that. Perhaps I do too, to a great extent sometimes. I'm sure that's part of the human condition, but fundamentally, I hope we can all agree that we are not here to entertain something that is fundamentally wrong. So if we can establish the foundation that we are all aware, that we're all present, that is a great place to start. Because, again, return to that recognition. Notice that you are here, you are aware. There is not something here for you to do. You're not, there is not a little you with its tendrils managing, controlling behind awareness, making sure that awareness is flicked on. There's not a button to turn awareness on or off, is there? You cannot turn awareness off. It is here. It's what you are. And once you realize that there's nothing here for you to do in order to be, you can simply be, because it's what you are. You are, obviously. You don't have to practice to be. You are. If anything, you have to practice to not be what you thought you were. Yeah, that's a real practice. If anything, to unlearn all the ideas you have about yourself, that's a real practice. Yeah. But meditation is really just to be aware that you are aware, to notice that you are. And that is the first step, really. That is the core principle. Now, where it becomes difficult, and it was difficult for me for a long time, was that I thought that, yeah, that's great. I can close my eyes. I can just abide in the awareness that I am. It's clear that I am. I can kind of shut everything else out, kind of not remove the content of experience, because there's no need. You can't necessarily remove it. You don't have to remove it. It's just that you don't focus so much on it. It's easy to unfocus from the content of awareness and simply be as a field of awareness, boundless awareness. However, where the difficulty arises oftentimes is when we re-engage with the content of experience. Because the content of experience has this sense or this appearance that there's a human being and that the perceiving faculties operate outwards from this human being, and that it is that the perceiving faculties, the like seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling, right? That it is gathering data from this outside world, that we are picking up on this. This is the materialist view, that there's a world out there, and there's the body here, which with its sense perceptions that are decoding the world out there and making the appearance of a world appear, right? Even the sense of the body is never questioned really in this model. It is assumed that there is a world and a body here, because our perceiving faculties give us this illusion. What if the world and the sense of a body, the sense of localization, is untrue? What if you are simply akin to a character in a movie? Because if we were, let's assume we have a movie, right? This is a movie, three-dimensional movie screen. We were to interview this movie character that you are. The character would say, yes, I have these thoughts and these have been my experiences in the past. On the previous slides or the frames of this movie, I went through these types of experiences and so, right? The character will have an entire history of its characterness, of its localization, of its foundation as a character in this movie world. But this is just like when you're dreaming at night. Because the entire dream, not only when you dream, you're localizing yourself down to a character and you're looking through the eyes and the sense perceptions of this little character that you dream yourself to be, right? And this character seems to be looking out on a dream world. But the character, as well as the other characters, and the entire world which this dream character seems to perceive, is all happening in your mind. It's all you. There's not a dream you in a real dream world. The whole thing is you. This whole thing right here is you. Get it? I'm sure you don't get it. It took me many years. Not proud of it at all. In fact, it's quite embarrassing in some ways, but this is exactly why I'm making this video. You see, this may make sense logically to you, and this is often what people say. Yes, it makes sense intellectually. I get it. I can understand it conceptually. But notice now that there is an experience, right? You have an experience right now. This experience is made up of what? Thoughts, sensations, perceptions. And by perceptions, I mean sight, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling, smelling, all these, right? If you take one element of experience at a time, there is a sight, there is seeing, there is the sound of my voice, there is hearing. You may be nibbling some food right now, sipping a drink, right? There is tasting. You may have some smell in your environment. And there is sensing, the touching, texture, feeling, right? That is what there is to this body and world. Sensation and perception. Then you have the mind. Thoughts. Because feelings are really just thoughts mixed with sensations. They're sensations which we label in some way or attach some thought narrative to, and that creates what we call a feeling. So really that is all there is to experience. Almost. There's that last thing, which is not a thing, which is that which knows experience. So you have seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, sensing, thinking. Let's include feeling, right? You have all these elements of experience. You can, what I like to do sometimes is, you can sense the backside of your body, right? And you can see the entire sphere of vision that is here. So this, and in this experience bubble, if you will, there is also sound and tasting and smelling. It's, excuse me, it's like an entire three-dimensional experience bubble. Now, this bubble has no boundary. This is where it gets kind of weird. The analogy falls apart really. But I want you to kind of imagine that all experience is in this sphere of experience. It makes it more simple as a first step. Now, something watches, something knows this experience sphere, this content of experience, these elements of experience, right? Something knows it. It is known. You are aware of it. And that which knows it is that which you are. If you're looking at, just point your gaze somewhere, right? In the room, outside, wherever you are. Find one object. Look at that object and tell me if you aren't aware of that object. You are aware of the object, right? Undoubtedly, unquestionably. You know it. It's not looking back at you necessarily. It may if it's another being, but you're watching that object. It is known by you. And so I want you to understand that seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, hearing, all these, right? They're taking place in this space of here, in this space of knowing that is here. It is not telling you something about a world out there, because these senses are experienced here. If you close your eyes for a moment, the sound of my voice is taking place here. The sensations that you ascribe to the body are taking place here. It is not out there. It is simply here in your experience, in your field of awareness. Right? Now, when we open the eyes, there's an appearance of a world, but we know that seeing itself takes place in here. So there is this sight. Prior to this sight, there is seeing, just the faculty of seeing itself. Seeing is simply perceiving, experiencing. Experiencing takes place in you. And you can follow my train of logic here, which is that if something takes place in you as awareness, it must be made of you as awareness. And when you begin to notice that, everything is not only pervaded by awareness, but that it's, by pervaded by awareness, I mean that it takes place in awareness, in the field of the awareness that you are, that it not only takes place in the field of your being, but if something takes place, if something lesser takes place in something greater, the reality of that lesser thing is the reality of the greater thing, right? When we look at an organism, for instance, you have the entire organism, this human being here. Now, if you look a little closer, it's made up of cells. And those cells are made up of DNA, and DNA is made up of individual particles, and those particles are made up of quarks, then, let's say, below the atomic scale. Then you have quarks, and perhaps scientists will find a new layer below that, and a new layer below that, and a new layer below that. Because for many years, people thought all there is to the material world is atoms, like protons, neutrons, electrons. Now everything there's to it is quartz, right? Or whatever is the lesser thing now. So you may say then that cells and organisms don't exist. There's only atoms. There's only quartz, right? That would be more correct, let's say. It is not really correct at all, because this is not what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to provide a framework for you to understand that the underlying principle of whatever this is the only thing that is. If everything occurs in awareness, there is only awareness. And we simply have to get on board with that understanding. We simply have to grasp or, to override, to recognize that we have been misunderstanding, misinterpreting our experience. And it really begins by you recognizing that experience is known, and that the knowing which knows experience is the knowing that you are, and that knowing which you are knows only itself. It is self-knowing. There is not knowing and another layer of knowing and another layer of knowing, knowing that knowing, which knows that knowing, which knows that knowing. It is not like an infinite mirror effect, or like when you shoot a camera at a recording and see that recording just infinitely going down. No, there is awareness in its awareness of itself, and that awareness is modulating itself to take the shape or the experience of what you're experiencing now. That is all there is. Confirm that, observe that, and confirm it some more, because if you have lived 31 years just like me in 1 week from now, that's a lot of years of conditioning, of seeing or believing in a particular way. And especially when most of our culture, if you're listening in English, I assume also your culture, has this view or this belief of materialism, thinking that the world is made of stuff, and out of stuff arises awareness. Boo! Magically, boo, boo, awareness here. Is somehow generated between whatever is up here, right? This is the materialist view, and this is not in line with our experience. Our experience says that there is awareness first and whatever we're aware of second. But whatever is secondary to the primary, which is awareness, has no reality outside of the primary. So really there is no secondary. There is only the primary, which is awareness, taking the shape of the secondary. I know this got very convoluted. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope this would be a simple video. Maybe next time. Bye.